Oh my goodness! Sphinxrel, thank you for resubbing the 7-month streak. Holy heck. And Noelle, almost 2 years. Holy crap. That's like the entire time of this Hakuoki run. Also, hello everyone. I have my tea. I've finished pounding the coffee. Yeah, just the one run. Just Hijikata. No, not quite. Although, damn, we've been going really slow with this one because it hurt. It's ouchy. It's ouchy. We are definitely going back and doing the Heisuke route. Well, thank you for the follow, Eva Champion. Halen. Love to eat sadness for breakfast. Nom nom nom. Yeah, we will go back and do the occasional revisit, I think, as we run through other games, because good lord, there's quite a few yet to do. We've still got a Hanzo rerun on the docket at some point as well. But once we wrap Hakuoki for well and truly good, we're gonna dig into Code Realize. Skyrim is so good. I've not played in such a long time. Yeah, we got some Code Realize to do, because that has been sitting on my shelf wrapped for a while now. And there's more stuff coming out soon, so we need to get on that and, you know, get through the backlog. Because Cafe Enchante comes out in November, and Pio Fiore comes out in October. If we have to choose, I'm probably gonna jump to Cafe Enchante first, because like a coffee shop in a weird supernatural thing and your resident bachelors happen to be demons and mythical creatures seems entirely on brand in so many ways here. And the last time we tried to date mafia people, it didn't go well, but Oz Mafia is its own thing, so we don't want to talk about that anymore, I think. Is this your exact brand? Precisely. Oh god, Anna. No, not the jingle. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, it's still in there. It's still in there. I'm sorry. Let's not go to Oz. It is a silly place. Yeah, that was so bad. And how it was inexplicably not voiced sometimes. Anyway, the other bonus, like, we're sort of giving love to a specific director here, because Code Realize is by the the voice acting cut in and out, much like the writing. Yeah, exactly. But Code Realize is, I believe, also by the same director as the Hakuoki series, as is, I think Cafe Enchante is by the, like, scenario writer or something like that. Anyway, important people to the process have served on all 3 of these games, so I trust the quality that's going to come out. I have zero idea who is on Pio Fiore. I really don't know much about that, other than there are mafia people and it takes place in like 1920s Italy or something. And the heroine looks suitably helpless and vapid, so that's probably going to be fun. I hear good things about Code Realize's heroine Cardia, though. She seems pretty great from everything I've heard in passing. And we have a lot of excellent fictional, like, based on fictional characters, fictional bachelors. Code Realize is a whole thing. Literary characters, but make it steampunk. Which, you know, also sort of on brand, I suppose. All right. Well, the music has run out. The timer has run out. I think it's time to do this, friends. Are we prepared? I'm not sad, you're sad. Ready for the weekly history lesson. All right, enough stalling. Here we go. I also need to get the walkthrough up because after 2 years, my phone finally decided to blitz all of my Chrome tabs, and I need to get them back. So I know. F. It's fine. It's not that big a deal. If you're referring to bookmarks, who the hell needs them? I don't use those anymore. See, I've already got it back up. Super easy. I also have so many bookmarks that I never look at. See, here's the thing though, friends. We, like, if I were going for a proper completion run, we are nowhere near done because we have so many other endings. Oh, like, okay, there's all the bad endings, which are of course usually pretty short and basically just the VN version of game over. But then there's also the unrequited love endings, which are basically just sad and shit. I'm doing us a mercy and not making us sit through those. For now. Other than Soji's. We did one of Soji's bad ends because it came with a CG and it was gut-wrenchingly sad and I needed everybody to understand my sadness. But, you know. Alright, oops. Alright, I've got this thing up on my phone now. We have begun chapter 3. Yeah, it sure does. It's stuck in my brain way back when, too.
Hijikata took the first opportunity he could to begin visiting vassals to request urgent clemency for Kondo. He was busy day and night, hardly sleeping. In the end, though, the former vassals were wary of upsetting the Imperial Army, and they refused or outright ignored Hijikata's pleas. What made matters worse was Soma's own petition for clemency resulted in his arrest.
Shit!
On April 11th, the head of the Satsuma domain met with an ambassador from the shogunate. As a result of these negotiations, Edo Castle was surrendered to the Imperial Army. But the war was not over. We'd left Edo in advance of the negotiations to meet up with the Denshu Company.
Yeah, cool. Soma's just been arrested. No big deal.
Hijikata returned from his other engagements as we joined with the Denshu Company, and together we headed north. Saito had taken the main body of the Shinsengumi ahead to Aizu in order to keep an eye on the Fury Corps. We left Ichikawa and set off down the Nikko Road to Aizu.
Thank you for the 4 months of subbins, Len.
We'd finally managed to meet up with some allied soldiers, but many of them looked at us with a strange mixture of curiosity and fear. It was unpleasant.
Hey. Excuse your face. If you're a soldier, you've probably killed people too. Yes, I know they're not technically wrong. Oh, that's fair. They're coming at them for supposedly just being like cold-blooded, give no fucks murderers, which is also not exactly wrong sometimes. Somewhere Soji sneezes. Yes. Or coughs up a lung. Anyway.
It wasn't difficult to hear the gossip about us that had begun to travel the ranks.
Damn, even Shimada's mad. He's like, want me to go punch him?
He sounded even more irritated than usual. Hijikata, are you alright? You don't look too well. He certainly didn't look it.
my god. Tristan is like yelling in the other room. Give me a moment. I need to go deal with my son. Hello, friends. I went out to check on him and he's just screaming in front of the pantry because he wants more treats. He's addicted. It's a problem. It's a real problem. Oh no, poor Moses.
His skin was a pale color, almost blue, and he looked as if he might collapse any moment. Marching during the day was hardly pleasant for a Fury. Kondo was clearly at the forefront of his mind. I had to admit, he did have good reason to be on edge.
あっと、あそこ、通してくれる？悪いね。よっ、あっと。
Oh, is this our friend Otori? I think that was his name. We saw him in Soma's route, mostly, I think.
Someone was moving toward us from the back of the column, pushing his way through the rest of the marching soldiers.
はじめまして。君が土方くんかい？君たち新選組の名前は僕たちの間でも随分鳴り響いているよ。
Yes! Otori! He looks baby, but remember, he's actually quite savage.
なんだあんたは。
ああ、自己紹介がまだだったね。僕は歩兵奉行の大鳥圭介。伝習隊の指揮を任されている。
Infantry magistrate, which is in the dictionary as army minister, so whatever. Anyway, he's over all the military stuff. So he like commands the Denshu company, but he's just chilling in a suit.
新選組の皆さんには今後いろいろと世話になると思う。よろしく頼むよ。
He gave a friendly laugh and extended his right hand. It was peculiar, though. For a man who claimed to command the infantry, he looked more like the son of a wealthy merchant than a soldier.
A literal abacus warrior, indeed.
Hijikata stared down at the hand as if it were a week-old fish.
まあ手袋を外すのを忘れていたな。
No, Otori, that's not the problem here.
He hurriedly plucked the glove off his right hand and then thrust it toward Hijikata again.
なんだ金でも恵んでくれってのか。
This is called a culture clash?
シェイクハンドだよ。知らないのかい？欧米での挨拶のようなものだよ。
Hijikata literally doesn't know what a handshake is.
Hijikata snorted under his breath and turned away. Otori left his hand out for a few moments longer before pulling his glove back on silently.
大鳥さん、副長に何かお話があったんじゃないですか。
Yeah, that was awkward.
ああ、ぜひ新選組の副長から直々に今日での特に鳥羽伏見の話を聞かせてもらいたいと思ってね。
俺から聞くより尾ひれのついた噂でも追っかけた方が楽しいんじゃねえか。おしゃべりな連中が多いみてえだしな。
いや、これは申し訳ない。軍備は整えたんだが、軍機の方はまだ末端の兵にまで行き届いていなくて。
He's like, sorry they suck, but they're new.
とりあえずこの軍の編成について説明しよう。旧幕府軍脱走隊の約3000人が先方中軍後軍に分かれている。僕はその総督を任されているんだが。
総督？つまりあんたが総大将ってことか。
He kind of just told you that, Hijikata.
一応そういうことになるね。
Hijikata looked as if he just swallowed something rotten. He'd only just lost his chief, and now Otori was trying to force himself into Kondo's place. No one, no matter how skilled, could replace his friend. Still, Otori seemed to have expected to be rebuffed, and continued, showing no sign of being put off by Hijikata's behavior.
先方は桑名藩会津藩を主体とした部隊、そして中軍は僕たち伝習隊を主体としている。後軍は旧幕府回転隊が中心だ。僕はこの先鋒軍の参謀に土方君を推薦しようと思っている。どうですか？
どうして俺なんだ？
僕は実戦経験があまりないから優れた先達に従おうかと思ってね。
At least Otori knows when to delegate. And also, yeah, if Otori has connections, it's really not on the right side of the conflict. He's also pretty clearly out here on the military force, not like in the court. Or in Edo specifically either.
それに新選組の土方君の名前は敵にも味方にも知らないものはない。先鋒軍にはうってつけの指揮官だ。
Otori's copious praise did nothing to thaw Hijikata. They just stared at one another for a few awkward moments. It was painfully obvious that the two of them didn't see eye to eye, and it could not have been a worse first impression.
では僕はこれで失礼するよ。詳しい作戦についてはまた後日話し合うことにしよう。
He's just dressed nice. I actually haven't looked up a lot of the history on this specific fellow, but I assume he is also a real person.
Their conversation ended as one-sided as it had begun, and Otori disappeared into the swarm of marching soldiers.
So that conversation was awkward. Otori's basically like, hi, I'd like to introduce myself. I run this entire army here. I'd like to promote you to lead because I don't really do combat. You do. You're really famous at it. What do you think? And Hijikata's just like, Okay, bye. I'll talk to you later. Awkward.
Later that night, we camped a short distance away from the rest of the force.
おい、島田、雪村、話がある。こっちへ来い。
Yeah, appearing to Hijikata like that probably did not help. Yeah, like, credit to Otori, he didn't let Hijikata's extremely surly demeanor put him off, which is sort of impressive.
The main bulk of the Shinsengumi, as well as the Fury Corps, were headed to Aizu under Saito's command. That meant that the only people in camp were myself, Shimada, Hijikata, and about 10 other Shinsengumi.
お前たち、さっきあの歩兵奉行さんとやらが言ってたことを覚えてるか?
Oh, it really does.
副長が先鋒軍の指揮を取るということですよね。
そうだ。で、お前たちの身の振り方だが、お前たちは先鋒軍に入れねえ。中軍、皇軍に編入させるつもりだ。
それはどういうことでしょう。副長が指揮するのは先鋒軍なのですよね。
お前は鳥羽伏見の戦を経験してるんだ。実戦経験のねえ部隊を指揮するにはもってこいの人選だろう。
しかし、
Hijikata's reasoning made sense, of course. But as an outside observer, it felt like Shimada had grown attached to the idea of fighting in the same unit as Hijikata.
Ouch.
Perhaps Hijikata was insensitive for either ignoring this sentiment or not acknowledging it at all. Shimada sighed heavily, resigning into a period of deep thought. But then he looked Hijikata in the eye.
わかりました。副長の命令であれば従います。ですけど、一つ確認させてください。新選組がなくなってしまうわけではありませんよね。
Yeah, Shimada's a good.
俺は新選組の島田会としてこの戦に参加するつもりです。誠の大旗を掲げます。
Oh. Oh.
Excuse me, I need a minute.
それで構いませんよね。
Shimada and I felt the same way, it seemed. Hijikata's hope may be flickering, but ours wasn't.
好きにしろ。
Oh, buddy.
Hijikata seemed so disengaged.
それからもう一つ、部隊の指揮は雪村君には荷が重すぎると思います。どう考えても前線に出られるとは思えませんし、彼女は大使ではなく副長の小将という立場ですから。では俺は他の大使たちに決定を伝えに行ってきます。
With that, he turned and jogged off toward the rest of the Shinsengumi soldiers. Hijikata and I were left alone. He sighed and his shoulders drooped. Suddenly he looked very, very tired. Why did you try to order us away? He didn't answer. Instead, he tilted his head back to gaze up at the stars that speckled the night sky. The long, melancholy silence spoke volumes, but as I began to regret questioning his decision, he spoke up. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything at all. Was I putting pressure on his fragile emotional state? Or was it a truth I needed him to answer?
近藤さんがいつ戻ってくるのかさえ分かりゃ死ぬ気で戦いもするさ。だが今度ばかりはどうなるか分からねえと来てやがる。俺たちは今まで二人で新選組を背負ってたんだ。俺一人で支えきれるわけねえだろ。
Ow.
Hijikata was often rude or cruel when he spoke to me, but I'd never heard him sound so defeated before. And he had never talked that way about the Shinsengumi. His shoulders sagged. Although his voice sounded completely devoid of energy, he continued,
新八の言う通りだったよな。
Huh?
甲府城に行くって決まった時、あいつと原田が言ってたろう。かつ阿波の神が軍資金や大砲を気前よく出してくれるはずがねえ。何か裏があるんじゃねえかって。その通りだったよ。新政府軍に江戸城を明け渡すって決めたのは、その勝阿波の神だったらしい。
Shit.
What? Then that meant the battle in Kofu had been...
新政府と穏便に話を進めてえのに、俺たちみてえなのがいちゃ邪魔だから、手よく追っ払われたってことだ。
He gave a dry laugh and kicked despondently at a rock near his foot.
くそ！どうして気づかなかったんだよ。近藤さんに戦の指揮を取らせてやりてえ、戦場に立たせてやりてえって気持ちに目がくらんじまった。それが負け戦になっちまって、近藤さんのやる気をなくさせちゃ何の意味もねえじゃねえかよ。
Welcome, Grant and friends. It's time to cry. Hope y'all are ready. Bring tissues and a drink, because you'll probably need it. Yes, welcome to the Sad Samurai Hours. Hijikata's broken and we can't help him. Welcome, our melons.
I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. The Shinsengumi had put their lives on the line for the shogunate. The shogun should have come to their aid. Instead, the Shinsengumi was abandoned, and because of that, we lost Kondo.
おまけに必死こいて剣術の稽古して、ようやく刀をさせるようになったってのに、鉄砲相手じゃ手も足も出ねえときた。武士ってのは戦が専門じゃねえのか。俺たちが信じて追いかけてきたものって一体何だったんだ。
There it is. There's the conflict.
その先に何かがあるって信じてたからこそ、きつい思いしてみっともなく歯食いしばって坂を登ってきたんだぜ。
They sure are.
登った先に何もねえって分かっちまったら、これからどうすりゃいいんだよ。俺は 信じて生きていきゃいいんだ。
With every word he spoke, I could feel his pain. It had been Hijikata and Kondo's partnership that had allowed the Shinsengumi to flourish.
Tristan is still screaming outside of my room. One moment.
Get in here. Come on.
All right, he should be done yelling.
But the shogunate had betrayed them. War changed. And now he felt the world was moving on without him. All that Hijikata had done was fading away, and the pain of that loss was destroying him. What could I say to help lessen that pain?
We believe in him. Because you have responsibility sounds really fucking cold, actually.
I think you feel this way because you've lost what you believed in. But the men out there, the few that are left, I think what they believe in is you. They think that as long as you're there to lead them, they'll be fine, and they refuse to show fear in front of you.
True, it does sound like it's something that could have worked for Hijikata since he's like, oh right, I'm a workaholic and I must always be on.
They want you to see the kind of men they are, which means they'll fight to the death if you tell them to. I didn't know what else I could say to make him feel better, but I wanted to soothe his wounded soul, at least a little. As much as I could, I said what I felt. To be honest, I don't really know much about things like the reason the Shinsengumi exists, or what you should believe in. But if somebody asked me why I was here, I think I'd say that it's because I believe in you, Hijikata. So, maybe that had been the wrong thing to say. He was worried about what he believed in, not me. All I'd done was probably give him yet another thing to worry about. More pressure. Hijikata turned to look at me, but for once, the light in his eyes was soft.
そうだよな。見失っちまったものってのはてめえでもう一度見つけなきゃどうしようもねえよな。それに今はでかい戦が控えてる。あれこれ悩むくらいなら勝つことを考えねえとな。
With a small, crooked smile, he turned back to the stars. Perhaps my words have been a little too harsh. We fell silent again. The only sounds were nearby bugs chirping and fluttering in the night.
All right, how many think the blood drinking scene is literally minutes away? We just had a tender moment, so, you know. Fair. Minutes seems generous. We'll just stay here for a bit.
I was worried saying anything would just make things worse.
お前、本当にここにいるつもりか。
I knew he wanted to go alone, but I couldn't go with Shimada, and we both knew it. Hijikata's eyes thinned, and he pondered for a moment as I stared idly to the side.
Right?
Yes, I am. Perhaps I didn't know how I could help him just yet, but I could hardly leave him alone.
俺の邪魔だけはするんじゃねえぞ。
Yes, I know. We stood there in the silence of the night. Just then,
Here we go. God. Really? Really? Like, literally. I cannot stress enough that the last time I played his route was probably like 10 or 12 years ago. I don't remember it at all. And yet.
he moaned suddenly and bent over in pain. Hijikata?
Greetings, Michi. You're right on time for nonsensical blood drinking.
In a matter of seconds, his hair began to turn white. Let's go over here. I led him into the shadow of a large tree, where the nearby soldiers wouldn't be able to see him.
I'm gonna leave you looking at Angie Fury Hijikata for a second because Tristan is still yelling, and I have a slight concern that possibly Percy's stuck in the cupboard because I haven't seen him since I gave them treats. Give me one moment. All right. I think the mystery of the screaming cat has been solved. As you know, when a cat's food dish is anything less than completely full, it is obviously empty and needs to be filled. So hopefully he'll shut up now. Anyway, I think we were about to do whatever the fuck this nonsense is. I just went ahead and filled it. I was like, all right, fine, here.
He spoke through gritted teeth, and as I watched, his breath became desperate gasps. Frustration fought with pain for dominance of his face as the bloodlust began to take hold.
Alright, fine. We give him blood because, of course, we do.
Hijikata. I ran toward him, pulling at my collar to loosen it.
Oh my god, the animals are just like out of control tonight. So much Bork. Many Bork. Many mini Bork, because my dogs are small. They're behaving like animals! Yes, they are. I don't know why. Anyway.
He grasped my intent and grimaced. He took hold of me and pulled me roughly toward him.
Easy there, Hijikata.
I felt a dull sting on the back of my neck and then the hot trickle of blood. Then I felt his lips.
Yeah. Same CG, different background. It's whatever. We'll see if they don't fuck these ones up, though, because his last one was actually not that bad, right?
The quiet sound of his drinking filled my ears in the silence of the night. His warm breath came in pants across the back of my neck, but after a time I felt it begin to steady. Slowly, his grip loosened. I could sense the pain leaving his body.
That was fucking quick. That was like the least thirsty I've ever seen these scenes.
Then, without a word, he pulled away from me.
お前は一体いつまでこんなことを許すつもりなんだ。
What?
Exactly. If all of them were like that, we wouldn't have this problem.
When he looked at me, I saw worry in his eyes. I smiled back.
Hey, Anna, you were right.
Forever. As long as you need me, I'll be here.
バカな女だな。てめえの進むべき道も見えてねえ。先のねえ男なのに。自分の身を傷つけてまで血を捧げるなんて何を考えてやがるんだ。
It's all right. Really. I want to do this. There was nothing for him to say to that. We were on our way to Nikko when the news came to us. We were only a short distance away in a nearby forest.
まさか宇都宮を新政府軍に抑えられてしまうとは予想外だった。
Hijikata and Otori stopped to talk over their next move after the scouts had brought news of Utsunomiya's fall.
抑えられたって言っても単に錦の旗にビビって恭順した口だろう。奴ら以上の力を見せつけてやりゃすぐこっちに尻尾振ってくるさ。節操のねえ連中だからな。
He does. He's very diplomatic.
新政府軍に寝返った奴らの城なんざ落としちまって構わねえだろう。歩兵奉行さんよ。
僕は別に戦うことに反対しているわけじゃない。ただ大山で戦っていた中軍皇軍は まだ合流しきれていない。彼らが追いつくまで待ってくれと言ってるんだ。
Oh boy. So, Oyama is a place.
城を落とすというのは戦略的に愚の愚とされている。今は
そりゃどこのありがてえ蒼天の孫引きだ。お得意の西洋法術か。
Oh boy, Hijikata, please.
これは西洋だけの常識ではない。孫子の兵法にだって同じことが書かれている。将兵は棒を打ち、その次は甲を打ち、その次は兵を打ち、その下は城を攻む。つまりやむを得ない時を除いて城を攻めるというのは愚かだと説いているんだよ。愚を犯すのであれば、せめて自分を最良の状態にして確実な勝利を目指さなくては。
Like, Otori's clearly not a fool. Hijikata is just real tired. Yeah, exactly. He's done his homework. He does know what he's doing, I think. Even if he's not necessarily battle tested.
Hijikata cut Otori off and gave him a rebuttal.
兵は拙速を聞くも、未だこれを巧みにして久しくするを見ざるなり。戦ってのは時間をかけてうまくやるより、多少下手でも素早くやれってことだ。これも孫子の兵法に書かれてる言葉だぜ。
I don't know if smarter is necessarily at stake here. Otori's clearly pretty bright and knows his stuff. He's just not got a lot of actual practical experience or worldly experience. Sannan, on the other hand, is quite intelligent and clever and also has experience. So he's kind of got a one-up in that regard. But we also really don't know that much about Otori in the context of the fiction here. Yeah, exactly. You can't really measure smarts objectively in that way.
土方君、話を混ぜっ返さないでくれ。中軍後軍が我々に追いつくのに何十日もかかるわけじゃない。あと少しだけ待ってくれと。
Exactly. Otori probably comes from a higher social station. If he's with a company like this and at the rank that he's at, not to say he got handed the rank, but he's definitely like most likely of a samurai family or something like that. So he at least knows the politics. Not that Hijikata doesn't, but Hijikata wasn't raised in it.
のんびり後続部隊を待ってるうちに敵の援軍が来ちまったらどうするんだ。あの射程の長い化け物銃を持った薩長の連中がやってきやがったら勝てる見込みはなくなっちまうぜ。
それは
For the first time, Otori didn't have a rebuttal ready. Hijikata must have sensed that he struck a nerve, and he pushed ahead.
気を逃すくらいなら俺が先鋒軍だけで城を落としてやるさ。
Hijikata, that seems like a bad idea.
それは危険だ。そんなのは戦争ではない。ただの自滅だ。
His voice rose in shock, but Hijikata just snorted derisively. He clearly had no intention of taking his opinion.
まあ黙って見てろよ。明日日が暮れるまでには宇都宮城を落としてやるさ。
Hijikata is just mad and wants to, like, bully his way through this war. Because he's just mad as hell. This is not a good state for him to be in.
His lips pulled back from his teeth in a feral grin, and he looked off toward Utsunomiya. He wasn't being belligerent. I think reckless was a more accurate term. With Hijikata like this, could we really win? I couldn't wipe the fear in my heart.
Cool, cool, cool. This is fine. April 19th. We're like less than a month away from the day upon which Hijikata actually dies. Well, no, actually, we've got a year to go. I think it was 1869. I can remember dates. So, like a month and a year.
Utsunomiya Castle was in turmoil. Our forces numbered around 2,000, while the castle had barely 700 guardsmen. The battle for Shimogawara Gate was especially intense, with 1,000 shogunate troops against only 400 guards. Although the shogunate soldiers easily outnumbered their opponents, the guards were able to use the fortifications to great effect, fighting the invaders to a standstill. Guns cracked and bullets flew across the battlefield as men screamed in pain. Hijikata turned to face the 200 men now under his direct command.
このままじゃキリがねえな。そろそろ敵陣に突っ込んでもいい頃か。
敵陣に？何を言ってるんですか？向こうは銃を持ってるんですよ。
奴らが持ってるのは薩長が使ってる新型の銃とは違う。少し離れりゃ当たらねえし命中精度も低い。
Jeez.
それに弾の1発や2発当たったところですぐ死ぬわけじゃねえさ。
Hijikata? It won't kill you.
そんな無茶な。
The men were stunned. Never would they have imagined that they might be given orders like these. Hijikata, on the other hand, stared back at them coldly.
お前ら、ここに何しに来たんだ？戦しに来たんだろ。
Oh boy.
だったら死ぬ覚悟ぐらい持ち合わせてるはずじゃねえか。合図をしたらそこのやつから前に進め。
He pointed toward the source of the bullets raining upon the battlefield. Hijikata's men turned pale, and many of them trembled. Eventually, one of them snapped.
俺は嫌だ。こんなところで死にたくねえ。
He broke and turned to run. No sooner than when the soldier ran for it. Hijikata's sword leapt from its scabbard and sliced across the back of the fleeing man.
Jesus.
He fell to the ground, dead. The men watching swallowed. For a few short moments, they were utterly silent.
Yes, indeed we are.
The commotion broke out shortly afterwards.
おい、味方を切りやがったぜ。どういうことだ？頭がいかれてやがるのか。
Hijikata's having a bad day.
Hijikata let his cold eyes slide slowly across their ranks, and slowly the mumbling ceased.
他にも敵前逃亡してる奴はいるか？怖かったら逃げてもいいんだぜ。
She is. She's with him. She's his page.
ただし逃げようとした奴は片っ端からこの刀で切り捨ててやる。俺に切り殺されるか、それとも銃弾の雨の中を突っ切っていくか、好きな方を選べ。
His eyes were cold and dead. He was serious. Not a man there believed for a moment that he wouldn't kill them without a second thought.
Yeah, no, this is a bad, bad time.
With one final scowl, Hijikata turned back to the battlefield and took off across it.
This is gonna go badly. Like, history is a spoiler and all that.
He ran through the hail of bullets and fell upon the men defending the gate like a vengeful god.
God, why? I hate trying to say the name of his sword. But here we go.
His beloved sword, the Izumi no Kami Kanesada, dripped with fresh blood. But he swung it again and again, oblivious and uncaring. I desperately hid in the shadows, making sure the bullets didn't hit me as I waited for Hijikata.
Carne asada. Yeah, Izumi no Kami, like, when you see it broken up, makes it a lot easier to say.
Fukuchou! あと少しで城門を崩せそうです。
Oh dang, Shimada's looking like he means business. I think that's the first time we've seen him ready to do a fight.
Shimada's face was smeared with dirt and blood as he ran up toward the commander.
Oh, 頼りにしてるぜ、島田!
The guards fired desperately, but as Hijikata had said, their guns were old and inaccurate. Attacking men with guns head-on was frightening, but Hijikata seemed to be utterly unconcerned. He dodged and wove through them, his sword ending lives with each stroke.
I mean, he might have a slight advantage and all, but hey.
Considering that the battle was taking place during the middle of the day, he shouldn't even be standing.
Oh right, technically he's at a disadvantage because Furies don't operate well during the day. Well, it's fine.
However, his determination and savagery gave no such indication of distress.
すげえ。あの人は本当に人間なのか。地獄から這い上がってきた鬼なんじゃねえのか。
The mood among the men watching Hijikata fight began to change. None of them had ever likely seen a man fight so fearlessly in the face of gunfire, or even at all. His eyes glowed out from his blood-drenched face, and his arm never slowed.
おいお前たち、そろそろ敵兵の弾もつき始めたようだぜ。気合い入れ直せよ。
Hijikata, don't be mean.
He took a moment to roar over his shoulder before turning back to the important task of killing guards. His fearless charge seemed to have had an effect.
この戦、もしかしたら勝てるんじゃねえか。そうだ、勝てるかもしれねえぞ。新選組に土方さんに続け。
As the morale rose, so did their determination, and the fighting along the gate grew more intense. Then, just after the sun had passed its zenith,
開いた。城の大門が開いたぞ。勝っ 俺たちが勝ったのか。
I don't know, man. You still have the whole interior of the castle to deal with. Don't celebrate yet.
The news spread along the line like wildfire.
思ったより手間取ったが、ま、予想通りだな。
副長の采配、お見事でしたよ。玉の嵐の中を突っ切っていく姿は、まさに武士の鏡でした。
Yes, but how many times did he get shot and just shrugged it off because he's the Fury?
おだてたって何も出ねえよ。それにまだ城が落ちたわけじゃねえ。気を引き締めてかからねえ。
Right. I paused as we all talked because... Huh? The soldiers who'd been so reluctant to fight had now surrounded us, murmuring excitedly to one another.
土方さん、素晴らしい戦いぶりでした。まさに源義経が蘇ったかのようで。さすが新選組の副長です。
History! For those of you who don't know, like, even earlier Japanese history. Yoshitsune Minamoto, a general from the late Heian period. He is best known for defeating the Taira clan at the battles of Ichinotani and Yashima, and then destroying them at the Battle of Danura during the Genpei War. So, you know, a bunch of things. And yeah, Soldier 2 is a Hijikata fanboy now, I guess.
我々はあなた方を誤解していました。申し訳ございません。離脱しようとしていた兵士を切ったのは我々を勝利に導くため、これ以上の脱退者を出さないためだったのですね。
I mean, it is. It is Ushiwakamaru.
あなたの下で戦えることを誇りに思います。あなた方こそ本物の武士だ。
The curiosity and fear we'd seen on their faces when we first met was gone now, replaced with respect and adulation.
これは一体どういうことなんでしょう。
Shimada also seemed to be in shock of the reception and didn't know what to make of it. Now that the battle was over, Hijikata was looking a little ill, and his mood was souring with his health. Are you all right? He'd pushed himself so hard, and during daylight hours, that his body had likely reached its limit. Besides, he was almost bathing in all that blood.
Uh-oh.
The bloodlust might start up at any moment. It seemed that only sheer force of will kept him standing.
大丈夫に決まってんだろう。城を落とすまでは死ねねえさ。
Maybe you should wipe your face off at least, man.
He rubbed a fist across his face, wiping away sweat and blood at the same time, and then turned back to the soldiers.
先方軍は俺に続け。日暮れ前には城に攻め入るぞ。
はい。
Dawn came and Hijikata led the advance guard in an attack on Utsunomiya Castle itself.
Wait, wasn't it like the middle of the day? Did we just skip over an entire night? What happened? Maybe they meant evening? I don't know. Maybe we time skipped. What is time?
Their previous cowardice now forgotten, his troops fell upon the castle's defenders with great vigor.
この調子だと大した苦労もなしに落とせちまいそうだな。
They're in COVID time. Yeah, that would explain it.
He looked at me with a slight grin just as Shimada appeared.
副長、伝令です。大広間の部隊が苦戦しているとのこと。
苦戦だと。
Yeah, I wouldn't call that cowardice myself. That's just practical, but hey.
詳しいことは分かりませんが、 俺が様子を見に行ってきましょうか。
いや、俺が行ってくる。ここは頼んだぞ。
Trouble in the banquet hall.
はい、わかりました。
Surely this will be fine.
Hijikata, what should I do?
ついてこい。一人で戦場をうろちょろされて、流れ弾にでも当たられちゃ夢見が悪い。
Oh, okay. So it was decided that I head to the banquet hall with Hijikata. Even before we stepped into the banquet hall, I knew something was wrong. Inside, our men were dead on the floor, their bodies laid out like the spokes of a wheel. And at the hub of that wheel...
やれやれ、こんなところにまで来てやがったのか。薩長と幕府が戦をやってるってのに、優雅にご旅行か。鬼ってのはよっぽど暇らしいな。
Oh. What up, guys?
The only two men still standing in the banquet hall weren't strangers. They were Kazama and Amagiri, the demons. Why are you here?
我々は薩摩藩の命で密書を届けに参りました。
Oh, well. Kazuma's like, well, if he's gonna dress Western style, I'm gonna do it too. And his is fancier. Because of course it is.
まさか戦に巻き込まれるとは思いませんでしたがね。しかもその場に君たちも居合わせていたとは。
つまり新政府の連中の使いっ走りをさせられてるってことか。鬼ってのは誇り高いんだな。
Hijikata, could you not antagonize them when there's two of them here? However, sick burn.
まさかこんなに早くお前と相まみえることができるとは思わなかったぞ。土方とやら。
That's kind of a weak rebuttal, Kazuma.
顔に向こう傷つけてもらったのがよっぽど嬉しかったのか。そこまで喜んでもらえりゃ光栄だぜ。
Oh boy. It really is. I wish I could say he tried, but I don't think he did.
お酒。
Kazuma ground his teeth and drew the long sword slung at his hip.
Oh! Whoa. Kazuma has a Tachi? Fuck. I don't think they've ever mentioned that before. Compensating? Yeah, what did they say? It... Technically... Yeah, exactly. Technically, it's not that it's, like, huge. That's a dachi. The dachi is just, like, the predecessor to the katana, so he's got some old fucking sword. Which I guess is unsurprising, because Oni.
It wasn't the sword he'd worn the last time we'd met. This one shone in a strange, disquieting way. It was almost as if it simply generated its own light rather than reflecting what hit it.
Ooh, he's got a magic sword!
I found myself unable to look away.
お前を殺せばあの時の屈辱を晴らすことができる。天霧、お前は手を出すな。 この男は俺の獲物だ。
Yes, we all carry katanas for communication in this world. A real samurai speaks with his blade.
お好きになさるがいい。
I too once had a razor. It was pink.
Amigiri sighed and gave a minuscule shrug. He padded to a corner and folded his arms in silence.
やれやれ。腕の一本でも切り落とされなきゃわかんねえみてえだな。
Oh boy. Gentlemen, please. He sure did, yada yada.
He leapt across the room at Kazuma like a bullet from a gun. Kazuma blocked Hijikata's strike calmly, and their blades rattled against one another. Then Kazuma pushed back, and Hijikata was thrown across the room.
逃がすか。
In the blink of an eye, he leapt after his opponent and whipped out his sword in a quick slash.
Yeah, Hamagiri's just like, I need a vacation so bad right now.
Hijikata brought up the kanesada at the last moment, catching Kazuma's strike before it could hit him.
この間に比べ動きに精細がないな。人間相手の戦で疲れたか。まがいものとはいえ鬼のお前。
Hijikata. Oh no.
Hijikata's sword began to shake. Kazuma's edged closer. He was right, though. Even with fury-enhanced speed and strength, Hijikata was slower than before, less focused.
なるほど。まだ日没までには間があるからな。まがいものが動き回るには辛い時間か。
A cruel, arrogant grin spread across his face, filled with altogether too many teeth.
Oh god. I didn't need that description, but now I have it.
だがお前に合わせて手を抜くような真似はせんぞ。どんな相手にでも全力を尽くす。それが武士の作法とやらなのだろう。
くそったれ
Hijikata leapt backwards, but he wasn't fast enough.
No, Kazuma's not basically a vampire. Kazuma's an Oni.
Kazuma's sword licked out.
That's a weird way to phrase that. But yes, Hijikata is basically a vampire. But whatever. Fury is cool. We talked about the interesting linguistic gymnastics that the translators did with the Fury Rasetsu thing, right? I think we did many, many, many streams ago.
The glowing blade traced a brilliant red line across his chest, blood erupting and splattering to the floor. Hijikata dropped to his knees. The front of his shirt began to turn red and drops of blood fell to the floor beneath him. But he'd be okay. He was a fury. Any moment now the bleeding would stop. But it didn't. Agonizing seconds stretched on and still blood flowed from Hijikata's chest.
Fuck. She's had a line or two here and there, but not a ton.
傷がいつまでも癒えぬのが下船か、まがいものの鬼よ。この刀は同時斬りやすつなと言ってな、かの源頼光が主天童子という鬼を退治した時に使ったとされているものだ。
Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Yeah. He brought something special to the fight, all right. That is a very, very legendary sword. It sure is. And Shuten Doji was like the most powerful Oni ever, basically. So, you know, that's fine.
Waga Kazama家に代々伝わる品だが、本当に鬼を切ることができるのかを確かめた者はおらぬでな。
How the fuck did you guys get it? Look, he's really dedicated to wanting to murder Hijikata, okay?
ちょうどいい機会と思い持ってきたまでだ。少なくともまがいものの鬼を退治することはできるようだ。
Itachi is the predecessor to a katana. The differences are in like length and curvature of the blade. I think Itachi is a bit straighter, if I remember correctly. Someone please correct me if you know swords better than I do. Anyway, they are considerably older than katana.
Kazuma smirked, giving the impression that he figured his victory was a foregone conclusion. He looked down at Hijikata, who was on his knees.
まがいものの鬼相手に随分大層なもの持ち出してくるじゃねえか。よっぽど必死なんだな。
Oh man. Hijikata is down, but he can still talk smack.
He gave a taunting laugh, but Kazuma's grin didn't even twitch.
俺に生涯最大の屈辱を与えた貴様を地獄へと送ることができるのならば、どんな手でも使う。
Oh, so Tachi are the ones with more of a curvature. Interesting. Also, this is very telling about Kazuma's personality, isn't it?
「この刀で負わせた傷は塞がらんぞ。俺に勝つため羅刹になった。あの時の貴様の行動が今すべて無に帰したというわけだ。
Hijikata prodded experimentally at the wound on his chest, then climbed slowly to his feet.
要するに切られなきゃいいだけだろう。羅刹になる前は当たり前にそうしてたもんだ。
Yeah, they're worn a bit differently too.
どこまでも減らず口を叩くか。いいだろう。その強がりがいつまで続くか確かめてやる。
The Demon Slayer's blade flickered with blue-white light and almost seemed to shiver in concert with Kazuma's murderous intent. Suddenly the air seemed thick and oppressive. It was an effort just to breathe, and when I looked at Kazuma, my skin began to crawl. The Demon Slayer dropped towards Hijikata. He dodged the demon slayer, albeit only barely, and brought his own sword up to strike back. But when the Kanesada arrived, Kazuma had simply disappeared. No, I realized he hadn't disappeared. He was simply moving too fast for the eye to see. Hijikata seemed to be able to keep up, but the margin for error was slim, and getting slimmer.
Ah, heck.
Kazuma dodged Hijikata's attack with ease, and his riposte slammed into the other man's shoulder. Hijikata's shirt was torn away to display a fresh, ragged wound.
いいぞその顔。どうすれば俺を殺せるか必死に考えている表情だ。だが俺が見たいのはその顔ではない。どうやっても俺を殺せない。そのことを悟った時の絶望の表情を見せろ。
I think he mad.
Blood poured from his wounds, but Hijikata brought up his sword in time to catch the demon slayer. But he'd lost too much blood, and his body was beginning to weaken.
This is a rough fight.
Kazuma overpowered him, and Hijikata was thrown back. Then, as if things hadn't gotten bad enough,
Oh, fuck.
the white had disappeared from Hijikata's hair.
そろそろ限界が近づいてきたか。羅刹から人間の姿に戻っているぞ。虫けら以下の脆弱で哀れな生き物にな。
Cool. This is fine.
Kazuma's maniacal laugh echoed through the room as he gloated over the nearly unconscious Hijikata.
さあ泣けわめけ未練がましく命乞いをしてみせろ。今日にいた頃から我らの邪魔をし続けた忌々しい新選組の名もろとも貴様を葬り去ってやる。
Wow, dude. For real though, Anna. I think about the only thing he's done that's productive is keep the sake bars in business.
Hijikata's head twitched.
Yeah, dojigiri is a reference to specifically killing Shuten Doji. It's an interesting choice that they made with the translation, but I think it works, honestly. Because, yeah, I mean, calling it like the Doji Slayer would be weird. It is a real ass sword. It's fucking amazing. Yeah.
He'd lost so much blood. I was amazed he was conscious, let alone lucid. But as I watched, his hands dug into the floor mat like claws. It was almost like he was keeping himself up through sheer force of will.
No, I don't think he's gonna go grab a grass cutter. He's gonna have his Izumi no Kami till the end.
近藤さんと会えなくなっちまってから俺一人で抱えるにゃ重くて重くて仕方なかった荷物だけどよ。
Famous old ass sword. In fairness, Hijikata's sword will one day be famous.
それでもてめえごときに葬られちまうと思うと虫唾が走るぜ。
Blood poured from his shoulder and his chest, but he still struggled to stand. The sight of him was so powerful. It was so tragic that I couldn't bear to watch. If he didn't stop, he would die. I had to do something.
We're gonna stop Hijikata, apparently. Which is probably smart, because I think if we tried to stop Kazuma, we would literally fucking die. Because that sword would murder our ass, too.
Hijikata, no! You're hurt badly if you use your fury powers. His eyes flicked to me for a moment, and I could see that his mind was already made up. Then they were gone, and he glared at Kazuma.
てめえの命がどれだけ削られようとどうでもいいさ。
Damn. I mean, we care.
ただここでこいつに殺されてやるわけにはいかねえ。今まで命かけて作り上げてきたもんをこんなやつこんな刀ごときにぶち壊されてたまるかよ。
その体で一体何ができるというのか。見苦しさここに極まれりだな。
Kazuma swung his sword again, almost lazily. Hijikata tried to lift his kanesada in time to block, but his right hand refused to respond. Then Kazuma's sword slammed into his right shoulder. He let out a strangled scream as his arm twitched in pain, his sword tumbling from his grasp. Hijikata's clothes were soaked in blood and his skin was the color of paper. Only rage and pure willpower kept him upright, but even they were beginning to waver.
もう少し楽しませてもらえると思ったが、そろそろ別れの時のようだな。もう憎まれ口を叩く体力も残っていないか。
Hijikata's shoulders shuddered with each labored breath, but still he glared at Kazuma.
どうした？刀を取らんのか。武士の意地とやらはどこに行ったのだ。
Rude.
Even though Hijikata struggled to draw breath, he mustered what little strength he had left in him to reach for his beloved sword. It surprised me that Hijikata could even stand, and he gritted his teeth angrily before facing Kazuma. The tip of the blade dipped and waved, and blood poured from his wounds, but still he stood. Please, I begged, just stop. Don't die. Just looking at him was enough to make me want to scream. Kazuma lifted that cruel sword, slick with Hijikata's blood, and he smiled.
待ちわびたぞこの時を。俺に屈辱を与えた貴様をこの手で殺すことができる時よな。
Buddy, you got like a cut on your face that didn't even scar. You need to chill.
Suddenly, an ear-splitting detonation tore through the building. The wood of the castle creaked and moaned. I could smell something burning.
この匂い。もしや。
Well, I guess we're saved by cannon fire. Yeah, saved by the bell.
Suddenly distracted, Kazuma flicked his gaze around the room, looking for the source of the interruption.
カズヤ、あいつら退却するとき城に火を放ちやがったぞ。
火に巻かれちゃかなわねえ。さっさと逃げようぜ。
The fire spread quickly, and in mere moments the roar of it was deafening. Flames began to lick at the walls of the banquet hall. Black smoke poured into the room, rough and irritating in my throat. The flames leapt to the dry wood and paper of the door, then to the flammable mats covering the floor. Almost immediately, the room was plunged into nigh unbearable heat, but neither Hijikata nor Kazuma lowered their swords. Both men were waiting for a chance to strike. If either made the smallest wrong move, he would be cut to ribbons by the other. Tension filled the air until it was as thick as the acrid smoke. With a crackling roar and the moan of tortured wood, a section of the ceiling collapsed to the floor between them.
くそ、崩れ始めたか。これ以上ここにいると我が身も危うい。
Yeah, you get out of here. Go away. Shoo.
He shoved the demon slayer back into its scabbard angrily, glaring across the flaming wreckage at Hijikata.
土方とやら、この場は預けてやる。勝負はまたの機会としよう。
I like how he thinks it's an insult that he just doesn't give a fuck about saying Hijikata's name properly. How juvenile.
次こそは貴様の息の根を止めてやるからな。せいぜい楽しんでおくがいい。
With one last grotesque, inhuman smile, Kazuma disappeared. Hijikata, are you all right? I ran to him. His face was twisted in pain and he collapsed to his knees on the floor. His skin looked like wax. Practically forgotten until now, Amagiri walked toward us from his corner, seemingly unconcerned with the flames around him.
今後、我々鬼の一族は倒幕勢力から手を引くつもりです。
Cool. Thanks for the notice. He's just back there doing Sudoku puzzles or some shit.
そりゃどうしてだ。
我々は薩摩藩から受けた恩をもう十分返したと思っています。何よりそう遠くないうちに幕府は滅びます。我々が手を貸さずとも。
I saw a glimpse of a bitter smile coming out of Hijikata's lips.
ああ、そりゃ承知の上だ。
それでも沈みゆく船にこのまま乗り続けるつもりですか。君たちの作り上げたものを評価せず、最悪の形で裏切り、放り捨てたのが徳川幕府だというのに。
This is not the place to be having this conversation, gentlemen.
The truth of Amagiri's words drove a knife into Hijikata's heart, and I saw his face fall. He replied with a sad smile.
That is a good question indeed.
それでも武士ってのは殿様のために戦うもんだろう。俺が守りてえのは今江戸で蟄居してる慶喜さんでも江戸城でも幕府のお偉いさんでもねえ。俺たちの心の中にある幕府を、将軍を守るために生まれた新選組を守り抜きてんだ。重くてしょうがねえ荷物だが、近藤さんが戻ってくる前になくしちまうわけにはいかねえのさ。
Oh, he keeps saying before Kondo comes back.
Fuck.
Amagiri had closed his eyes while Hijikata spoke. Now he stood silent for a moment. After a long moment, he reopened his eyes.
もし風間が今後、君は彼女に関わり続けるのであれば、彼は鬼としての仁義を失うことになる。
Oh boy, oh boy. That's bad news.
一族の後ろ盾をなくし、 はぐれ鬼となります。おそらくそう遠くない未来、君たちの前に姿を現すと思いますが、それは我々には関わりのないこと。
He's like, he's probably not gonna give a fuck. However, we don't support that. Just FYI.
彼のことは君たちに任せます。
Wow. Yeah, keep in mind when he next assaults you. Also, he's literally just like, well, he's your problem now, dude. We are not liable for your promise to death.
Then Amagiri turned and disappeared.
Hijikata, we didn't need to get you out of this literal burning building so that we can, like, change scenes and go to break.
At last, Hijikata collapsed, although from relief or simple exhaustion, I couldn't tell.
Kazuma's now an independent contractor. That's like pretty yikes, considering basically it means his family disowns him. What are they gonna do about an heir?
Hijikata? Are you okay? But he had passed out. No matter how much I shook him or cried his name, he refused to open his eyes. The fire had grown more intense, and I was beginning to sweat in earnest. If we didn't get out soon, we would both burn to death. But how could I move Hijikata? He was far too heavy for me to carry on my own.
副長、雪村君、どちらにいますか?
Bless. The biggest, buffest dad has arrived.
From down the hall came Shimada's voice. Shimada, we're over here. Hijikata is... Moments later, Shimada burst through the door, scattering sparks and burning fragments across the room.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, just have him intentionally messing up his name or something instead of just saying Hijikata or whatever.
He just passed out a minute ago. He's lost a lot of blood. If he doesn't get treated soon, he'll...
わかりました。俺が運んできます。君は俺の後ろをついてきてください。煙を絶対に吸わないようにして。
Yeah, it sounds really juvenile, which it really is, but it's also just kind of meh.
Without even waiting for my reply, Shimada hefted Hijikata onto his back and set off at a jog. Okay!
Ah, finally. All right. That's enough of a scene change for me. Let us go get our break, like, considerably later than usual, but thanks for sticking it out, friends. I will see you in about 10 minutes. Go refresh your drinks, pet a cat, find the chill that Kazuma has clearly lost every ounce of, and we will come back and, yeah, probably deal with the likely, you know, Hijikata being wounded and Kondo dying, and everything is fine. It's fine. BRB. I see I brilliantly forgot to put the timer on. Whoops.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's been some amount of time. Oh. What? Or, you know, apparently it just turns on its own sometimes, because what the fuck, I guess. This is incorrect. Don't worry about it. I'm not sure what the hell happened there. But anyway, I am back. We will give it a few more minutes and then properly come back. Big lightning thunder. Yeah, no, we don't. Enjoy that. I don't know what that's like anymore. We got like zero precipitation whatsoever. I'm burning the last little bit of break, actually, reading up a bit on our infantry minister fellow, infantry magistrate or whatever, reading up on Otori. He's pretty well documented, actually. There's lots of photos of the man, too. And he lived to the ripe old age of like 78. Yeah, there's some good stuff in his wiki entry. He definitely was expert in theory. Apparently he let me see. He was he spent a period as a student of Jules Brunet, learning specifically French infantry tactics. Was apparently pretty smart, pretty brilliant at this stuff. Then he got the Denshu company under his command and so on. We've witnessed all of the dealings with the Shinsengumi thus far. And then, of course, he goes on to be with the Republic of Ezo once that's established. And Hijikata remains his second in command, essentially, but is, you know, way more experienced in actual combat. And apparently Otori didn't have the best reputation with his men because he was a little bit more flippant about everything, or not serious, so to speak. But he is in fact the one who suggested a peaceful surrender. Rather than like dying fighting, which is what Enomoto Takeaki, the president of the Republic of Ezo, wanted to do. It's interesting stuff. All right, let's get back to it. Right? There they are. They just stuck around.
Hijikata had risked his life to take down Utsunomiya Castle. In the end, it didn't matter. The castle Hijikata risked his life to retake was retaken by the Imperial Army 4 days later, with nearly 20,000 men from the Satsuma, Choshu, Ogaki, and Totori domains.
God, that has to sting. Anyway. Oh, cool. The Ogaki domain turned coat at the last minute during the... after the Battle of Toba-Fushimi. Rude.
After the battle, Otori and the rest of his soldiers set out for Aizu. Hijikata had miraculously survived his ordeal, but he was by no means recovered. He drifted in and out of consciousness for days, hovering at death's door. He was eventually sent away from the front to Nikko so he could recover. Since we'd arrived in Nikko, I'd busied myself doing my best to take care of him. As a Fury, most normal medication had little to no effect on him. Most of my nursing, therefore, consisted of fervently hoping that his natural strength and tenacity would bring him through. Fortunately, my prayers seemed to pay off, and in time his wounds began to heal.
Hand pats. She like patted down someone's legs, I think, was it? It was weird. Whatever the fuck that was. She rubbed his legs or some bullshit. God, that was weird. I forgot all about that. Yeah, knee rubbing or some bullshit. Oh, Ichiko.
Although those made by Kazuma's Demon Slayer did not do so easily or quickly, I found myself thinking about the Battle of Utsunomiya. After watching Hijikata in battle, the same soldiers who were too frightened to fight just minutes before ran to cross swords with the enemy. Afterward, they had told him that it was an honor to fight alongside the Shinsengumi, for they were true samurai. Hijikata, you are the core of the Shinsengumi. Without you, there is no Shinsengumi. The Shinsengumi needs you. So please, you can't die. Please. Several days later, I walked into Hijikata's room to change his bandages and was brought up short by what I saw. Hijikata, what are you doing?
Hey, we gets a CG. As usual. Can't stop, won't stop when it comes to work, I guess.
He'd recovered some, enough to move and speak without pain, but he was still confined to his bed. Or at least, he was supposed to be. You can't do that! When I said you were healthy enough to get up, I didn't mean you were healthy enough to work.
そんなに長い時間じゃねえよ。これを書き終わったらすぐ休むさ。
Right? We never see him this stressed down.
You nearly died. You need to rest.
誰が死にかけた？そこまでひどくねえよ。こんなのかすり傷だ。
Man, Kazuma was carving you up like a freaking holiday turkey. That's a lie.
Barely a scratch? Do you know how long I've been taking care of you? He continued to write, not even bothering to look up.
ああ、わかったわかった。
I'd hoped for a little more contrition. However, it seemed like I needed to take what I could get.
Aww. Boo, so cute.
Well, at least let me put this on you. You're going to catch a chill. As I spoke, I draped his old jacket across his shoulders.
お前のことだから、いらねえって言っても聞かねえんだろうな。
You're damn right.
I'm glad to see you understand how this works. Now, as soon as that's done, it's straight back to bed for you. And don't even think about working behind my back. I've got my eye on you. At last, Hijikata turned and looked at me. His face quirked in a small, bitter smile.
ああ、世話をかけたな。
He was more polite than I'd expected. Huh? Had I heard wrong? I stared back at him intently.
お前と、そして島田にも礼を言っておかねえとな。感謝する。ありがとう。
Hijikata's thanks was rarely unaccompanied by cynicism, sarcasm, or outright derision. But this... What had come over him? He was strangely genuine.
どうした？何かおかしなこと言ったか？
Oh, no. It's not that. It was more that I'd never seen Hijikata act so... nice.
I think the feelings.exe install was indeed successful.
Later that night.
副長が意識を取り戻したって本当ですか？
Hey, boys.
土方くんの怪我の調子が良くなったと聞いて寄らせてもらったよ。
Good evening, Otori, Shimada. Hijikata is over here. Before I could even finish, Shimada dashed past me to Hijikata's side.
よかった。あの時は本当にどうなることかと。
Oh, he'd cry.
Shimada's eyes began to tear up and he blinked rapidly to clear them.
大げさだな。あれっぽっちで死にゃしねえよ。
そうですよね。副長は何があっても絶対に死んだりしませんよね。
Ow. Ow, ow, ow.
He rubbed his hand across his face awkwardly, trying to brush away the tears that refused to stop forming.
土方君、今日は言いたいことを言わせてもらうよ。宇都宮城での君の戦いぶりはまさに鬼神のごとしだった。士気も大いに上がり、兵士たちは皆君のことばかり噂しているよ。だが君の戦い方は参謀としては失格も失格、問題外だ。指揮官が最前線に出て行ってどうする？
We're gonna have this conversation, are we?
ちょっと大鳥さん、怪我が治ったばかりなんですから、いきなりそんなことを言わなくても。
いいや、言わせてくれ。今日ばかりは我慢できん。いいかい、土方君。部隊の洋式化というのは兵に洋式の軍服を着せ銃を持たせればできるものではない。
He is very angry.
僕らは戦力と人員をきちんと把握し、どうすれば勝てるのか戦術をきちんと考えなくてはいけない。闇雲に突っ込むだけでは昔と何も変わっていないんだよ。兵士を手足だとするならば参謀は頭脳だ。頭脳が死んでしまってはたとえ手足が残っていても戦争の遂行はできないんだ。
Hijikata's eyes went wide. Otori continued, oblivious, but I knew what Hijikata was thinking. Those words were exactly from...
何をしているんですか、副長。あなたは頭で、俺は手足のはずでしょう。
Ow! How fucking dare they? Hey, remember? Remember back in Kyoto Winds at the Battle of Toba Fushimi when Yamazaki died for us? Yeah. Ow.
そんな風に我を忘れて敵陣に突っ込んでどうするんですか。手足ならたとえなくなっても替えは効きます。ですが頭がなくなってしまっては何もかもおしまいです。
The day Hijikata had become a fury, Yamazaki said very nearly the same words to him.
なんか山崎にまた叱られてるみてえだな。
Yeah, exactly. Prosthetics exist. The sentiment, of course, is you can find a way to live even if you lose a limb. Living is a bit difficult if you lose your head.
His words were to himself, and there was a faraway look in his eyes. Otori frowned in a confused manner.
土方君、何がおかしいんだい？
Otori's like, hey, I'm really mad over here. I'm yelling at you. What the hell are you laughing at? He just sounds so sweet and adorable. I can't help but laugh even though he's angry.
僕は真面目に話してるんだよ。僕も僕の部下も君をどれだけ心配したことか。
For a few moments, he simply stared at Otori. Normally, he would have fired back with sarcasm, or perhaps outright insults, if he was in a bad enough mood. But this...
今日は何を言われても、凄んでも、意見を曲げるつもりはないからな。
ああ、分かってるよ、大鳥さん。迷惑かけちまってすまなかったな。
He followed his surprisingly genuine apology with a similarly surprising bow.
I think we broke the baby.
Otori had clearly prepared himself for a variety of reactions from Hijikata, but this had apparently not been one of them. For several moments he simply stood there, too flabbergasted to speak.
島田もすまなかったな。俺をここまで運んできてくれたのはお前なんだろう。
いえ、副長のためでしたらあれくらい。
Shimada seemed just as confused as Otori by Hijikata's sudden change. I didn't understand it either, but there was no denying that something was starting to change within Hijikata.
We were softening him up. Or, you know, the war is beating the shit out of him, so... Oh boy, oh boy!
The summer bloomed from the buds of spring. The battle between the waning fragments of the old shogunate and the imperial army was moved to Aizu. Rumors about the intense fighting seemed to float in and out of our ears, and I grew uneasy thinking about the loss of lives on each side. Although he hadn't healed completely, Hijikata decided to leave Nikko as soon as he was well enough to march. The trip was long on foot, but without any problems. Eventually, we arrived at Shirakawa Castle, one of the main rally points for our troops. At last, we had caught up with the main body of the Shinsengumi. Saito was there to greet us the moment we arrived at the castle.
再び生きてお目にかかれたこと、大変嬉しく思います。
Saito! A friendly face we love to see. Gotta love Saito.
お前も無事で何よりだ。ずいぶん頑張ってくれたそうじゃねえか。
Although Saito looked relieved to have been reunited with Hijikata, Saito frowned and rubbed his hand at his forehead. Perhaps he was fatigued from the battles occurring one after the other.
相馬、野村、お前らも無事でよかった。心配したんだぜ。
Oh. I guess Soma got released from being arrested. That's cool.
Hijikata voiced appreciation towards the two, but both Soma and Nomura had glum expressions.
Did they realize he was too baby to be in prison? Maybe.
It was Nomura, actually, who began to shake before breaking down into tears.
申し訳ありません副長
Oh no. Oh no. Look at the sword that Soma has. Here we go.
He bowed prostrate, his voice quivering violently.
俺は局長の恩義を任されていながら
Ah, yes. Pain.
力及ばずお守りすることができませんでした
Fuck.
Although we had heard what Nomura said, we couldn't get ourselves to grasp the meaning of his words. For him to be this distraught over being unable to protect Kondo must mean... Eventually, Saito continued after Nomura seemed inconsolable, and he took up where Nomura left off.
近藤局長は4月の末頃、板橋の刑場にて斬首に処されたとのことです。
Hmm.
Beheaded. I swallowed.
Ah! Why do we have to have a CG of it, though?
The kind-hearted Kondo. He hadn't even been given the chance to retain his honor and take his own life. He'd simply been beheaded, like a common criminal. Such an act would have been pure humiliation for Kondo. Perhaps Hijikata had expected that.
そうか。近藤さんは腹も切らせてもらえなかったか。
His voice was controlled and unsurprised, but within his eyes I could see a bottomless, yawning despair.
局長をお守りできなかったのは俺の落ち度です。
Oh, Nomura, sweetie, no.
お願いします、副長。俺の首を晴れてください。俺もです。除名嘆願を買って出ながら局長をお助けすることができなかったんですから。
These two boys. They are far too good for this world.
バカなこと言ってんじゃねえ。これ以上大使を減らすような真似ができるはずねえだろ。死ぬ覚悟ができてるんなら薄っぺらい言葉なんぞじゃなく戦場で示しやがれ。
The two fell silent. Both of them let Hijikata's words sink deeply into their minds, and eventually, you could hear the guilt drip down from their voices. Later that night, Heisuke and Sannan came to visit Hijikata. As members of the Fury Corps, they had been resting when we arrived in the afternoon.
今日はいつもより早く目が覚めましたよ。君が期待したおかげで場内が騒がしかったもので。
かなりの大怪我だったんだろ。こんなに早く合流できるなんて思わなかったぜ。
こう戦続きじゃいつまでも休んでられねえだろうが。
He sounded calm and relaxed enough, but I knew he wasn't that way on the inside. I had felt depressed ever since we learned that Kondo passed away. However, I knew what I felt was nothing compared to what Hijikata must have felt. All right, Michi, good night. Thanks for hanging out.
「ではそろそろおいとましましょうか。我々の仕事は夜半から始まりますので。」
Heisuke nodded. They were halfway to the door when Hijikata spoke.
ああ、ヘイスケ。悪いが斎藤を呼んできてくれるか。
はじめくん？わかった、呼んでくる。けど土方さんここに着いたばっかりなんだし、今夜ぐらいはゆっくり休んでくれよな。
See, even Heisuke's like, dude, you need a nap.
He gave Hijikata a quick grin, then turned and left. With Heisuke and Sannan gone, the room fell into a somewhat awkward silence. Hijikata hadn't told me to leave, but it seemed unlikely that he would start talking to me either. I'd opened my mouth to speak in a desperate attempt to break the silence. Then the door slid open and Saito stepped in.
俺にご用だと伺いましたが、何か?
Ah, Workaholic 1 and Workaholic 2.
Without even waiting for him to sit, Hijikata began to speak.
斉藤、今後の戦いは俺が前線で指揮を取る。
Hijikata. This man wants to die. He wants to die so bad.
What? I gulped. That came out of nowhere. If we were to be fighting on the front line, the violence would be intense. Hijikata still hadn't fully healed. Was he healthy enough to put himself in that kind of danger?
Yeah, Hijikata is extremely just like, fuck all of you. Somebody kill me. But I'm gonna die fighting.
討ち死になさるおつもりですか?
みすみす殺されてやるつもりはねえよ。今まではお前が前線に出てたんだろう。副長の俺がその役目を肩代わりするのは当然だろうが。
Oh, ow.
The chief heading to the front line would raise morale, that was certain, but Hijikata was the core of the Shinsengumi. If he died, then the Shinsengumi would collapse.
そのお言葉には一理あると思います。
Yeah, he's chief of the Shinsengumi now. Yep. Saito is left-handed, which caused, some strain back in his youth. He's also a specialist in e-idol, so he does some fancy bullshit with sword draw that leads to murder. But yeah, notably you can see that he wears his swords on the opposite side. And I believe he has them, they make mention that he's got them arranged in a different way, like I can't remember if it's blade up or down, but it's the opposite so that he can cut when he draws. Yeah. I don't know if it necessarily carried the same connotations, because obviously Christianity was not a thing until Westerners came over and introduced it. But I think there was some sort of degree of stigma. I just don't know exactly where it originates from. I think it mostly posed a problem when trying to, use a sword. Yeah, exactly. They're just more difficult to train because, well, as I sigh and left-handed, being taught anything when you're left-handed is slightly more difficult because nobody quite knows how to tell you what to do physically other than just do the reverse, maybe, I guess? Also, every fucking tool. Yes, exactly. Every pair of scissors, every, school desk, even computers by default, you usually put the mouse on the right side. Yeah, being left-handed is a time. It's a time. Oh, spiral notebooks as well. I use my spiral notebooks backwards. Because otherwise my hand would hurt. Yeah, when you've been writing and your hand is all covered in ink. Yes, that was a fun time in school on essay exams. Anyway, support and shout out to my lefties.
ですが、俺の代わりを務めるとおっしゃるのであれば。
Wait, isn't... Okay, where does the marriage ring go normally? Isn't it the left ring finger? Or is it the right and I'm just really stupid and confused? Obviously I don't need to care about this because I'm ace as hell. But I always thought it was supposed to be on the left. Okay. My memory's very rusty because obviously, like, I am super ace and my mother is a few years divorced now. So, like, I was confused. Thank you. Ah. Yeah, well, Dextra and Sinistra for right and left. But, yeah, there's all the nonsense from Christianity and other cultures have stuff about the left hand being unclean and evil and whatever. Rise of the Leftrals. Yeah, lore around being left-handed is very interesting. Weirdly, since we're on this weird left-handed rant, when I have a problem sometimes where when I draw characters and if I'm not thinking about it, I will accidentally just instinctively draw them in a, like, if they have a prop or a sword or whatever, I draw them like they're left-handed because brain, because brain dumb. Even if I don't necessarily intend them to be that way. Generally speaking, most characters I have created are not usually left-handed unless I explicitly fold it into their story. Which I have done a few times with characters. I don't know. How about all of you? Unless you're trying to make a cool character. My absolute dumpster fire Sandor was left-handed, and it was a very specific bit of his story. He found his way to ambidextrousness and dual-wielded because, again, teaching him was hard. So he just did fucking whatever. Anyway, back to Hakuoki. Oh, that's so good, Anna. I love that. Also, Masahiro is great. I think last bit, I promise. I suppose for me, handedness does become a consideration just as a matter of default because it's really never far from my mind. Having lived as a left-handed person, like, I have to be conscious of it, right? Because the world's not really made for me to live in. which sounds more dramatic than it is. It's an inconvenience a lot of times is all. But it does mean I think about it all the time. And I do think about it with characters. But I also like sometimes in games and movies and things, I always take note when characters are left-handed, which like even in this, I thought it was really cool with Saito. I was like, oh, neat, left-handed. And in Psychedelica of the Black Butterfly, we have noted that Hikage seems to be left-handed. So yeah, I don't know. I pay a weird amount of attention to that stuff. Yeah, exactly. I am left-handed primarily, but I do a lot of things with my right, just as by virtue of having to adapt. But my left is very, very much my dominant hand.
The air suddenly felt thick as Saito's hand fell to his sword.
俺を倒してから向かってください。
Oh. That's really good, Fox. I love that.
俺より劣る腕前であれば、前線へ向かっても犬死にするだけですから。
Oh, damn. Yeah, actually, speaking of lefty characters, my boy that I play in my L5R campaign, which the game is tomorrow, Masayuki, is actually left-handed, but he is using his right hand. He's technically ambidextrous over time, but he's originally left-handed. Because his left hand is hella cursed, and he is struggling to use it as well as he used to. It's definitely fine. He certainly does not have Shadowlands taint all over his left hand. Yeah, anyway.
Saito?
言うようになったじゃねえか。
His mouth twisted into a grin as his sword slid from its scabbard. Hijikata, not you too! Please stop this. You're friends. You shouldn't be fighting each other.
Hey, Obi-Wan.
Hijikata turned his eyes to me, and they were as cold as ice.
お前は口を挟むな。黙ってみてろ。
Hijikata. He wasn't going to listen to me. That much was clear. All I could do was be silent and watch. Seconds lingered as they remained unmoving. Then they both exploded into motion at the same time. Swords collided. They struggled for a moment, swords grinding until...
なんだと?
Oh boy. I do appreciate what Saito is doing here, though. Because sometimes no amount of talking is going to convince Hijikata he needs to sit the fuck down. Saito knows how to reach him.
Hijikata was thrown back to sprawl across the floor. Even only partially healed, he still had far greater strength than a human, and he wasn't the sort of person to have gone easy on Saito.
傷も癒え切らぬ状況で生き残れるほど、合図は甘い場所ではありません。
Oh, fuck! Saito, no! Okay. I'm very worried that this means we're gonna get movie endings, and I don't like that.
Saito. The red eyes, the white hair. There was no doubt that Saito was a fury. Did you drink the water of life?
気遣いは不要。これは俺自身が選択した結果だ。
I didn't know what to say. The simple fact that Saito had become a fury said more about the battles he'd been fighting than words ever could.
自ら激戦地で指揮を取りたいというお心は理解できているつもりです。だからこそ行かせるわけにはいかない。
There was a calm finality to Saito's voice as he slid his sword back into its scabbard.
戦いの最中に身を置いていれば苦しみを忘れられるかもしれない。しかし忘れてもらっては困ります。現実から目を背けるべき時ではありません。
Hijikata slowly put his own sword away, then stood silently, looking into Saito's eyes.
俺が新選組の副長だからか。
Quite honestly, Hijikata needs Saito to, like, be his second at this point. Because damn.
近藤局長亡き今、新選組を滑る人だからです。
Also, God, it's really weird to come back here and hear Toriumi as Saito when on Sundays we get to hear him as fucking Lawrence. That's like the gulf of difference between Soji and Toa.
After hearing Saito's unwavering response, Hijikata sighed.
前線での戦いは俺たちに任せてください。土方さんは城に留まって作戦の指揮を。
Actually just a mom, but kinda unsettling. Yeah, that's basically how to describe Lawrence, isn't it?
わかった。合図の前線指揮はお前に任せるよ。少なくとも俺の傷が癒えるまではな。
ありがとうございます。
He was honest when he thanked him. Then he turned to face me. Yes?
土方さんを頼む。傷が癒えるまで目を離さないでくれ。
Aww. Right. I nodded and gave Saito what I hoped was a reassuring smile. He inclined his head to me, turned to Hijikata to bow, and then left. I quietly let out a sigh of relief. As soon as he was gone, Hijikata's face darkened and his brows drew together.
やれやれ。目付け役をつけなきゃならねえほど俺を信用できねえってことか。
To be fair, he's correct.
He's just worried about you. That's all. I didn't really know how effective of a babysitter I could be, but Saito had put his trust in me. I had to at least give it my best shot. I know you're anxious to get back into battle, but you need to rest, all right? He gave a bitter laugh, then suddenly stopped. He clapped a hand to his stomach in pain. Hijikata?
Well, This is fine. Like clockwork.
He started to shake and his hair and eyes changed color.
Yep, it is literally at least once a chapter. It's usually the second choice in the chapter too, which is weird.
The bloodlust had taken hold of him and he began to moan in pain. But if this continued, anyone could see him at any time. Hijikata, come into this room. I managed to...
Whoa, carry him? But really, Chizuru?
I managed to carry Hijikata writhing in pain to the room next door. But what was I to do now?
At least his have so far been mercifully short and, like, not even a little bit horny.
Hijikata, I moved toward him and I saw in his eyes that he already understood. I tugged at my collar, loosening it like I'd done before. He bent toward me and I felt a sharp pain on my neck.
Yeah, whatever. Same CG, different background.
I stayed as still as I could.
This almost feels like word for word the same as the last scene, but whatever.
His hot breath panted across my neck, but as he drank it slowly, he began to calm. I felt relief wash over me.
Yeah, it's almost word for word the same. Jeez.
If I could take away even a little of his pain like this, then this was the right way to do it.
Well, that was how they really should be, honestly.
Eventually, he pulled back. There was pain on his face, but not from the bloodlust.
とどまり続けるものじゃねえよな。
Huh? His mouth twitched up into a sour half smile.
いつまでも続けられることじゃねえよ。お前も俺もこの戦いも他のすべてもだ。
Hijikata? His eyes were distant, and he didn't even seem to hear me. I couldn't find the words to describe it, but something felt strange, wrong.
Yeah, there really are. Oh, hello, Percy. He has arrived. They do get a little run-on sometimes in this, I've noticed.
Percy!
Hi, baby. He's here for pets. Sit down, I cannot see the screen. Well, this is probably a good spot to stop. Oh no, Noelle. That sounds like the worst. So we got all the way through chapter 3 and started to peek into chapter 4. Hijikata continues to be deeply depressed. I don't think he's really dealing with Kondo's death, like, at all. I'm worried about that. Surely nothing can go wrong. Saito's a fury now. That doesn't fill me with dread. I know what happens to Sun-nun and Heisuke in this one, and I don't like it. Everything is awful. Oh, we get Hijikata DLC. Cool. I have so many concerns about Saito's fate. Like, Saito's the one where they sometimes just say fuck history, and if it's dramatic, they're gonna let him die, I guess. Which is unfortunate. But that's how it be. Oof. So that sure was a whole time. Anyway, friends, thank you for hanging out. We, tomorrow, of course, we will be back on Psychedelica of the Ashen Hawk. I suspect shit's gonna be getting pretty real in that one extremely soon. So that's gonna be great. But yeah, that's it. Anyhow, if it is late where you are, go get some rest. I intend to. If I can get my cat to stop kicking my hand with his little back feet. And if it is early where you are, have a lovely day. Anna, take a nap. I know you need it. You were up too late last night. Lynn, take a nap. I know your sleeping hours are positively ridiculous. Everybody, try to get some sleep whenever is convenient for you, okay? I am going to do likewise. Anyway, friends, you know the drill. Have no chill in the things that bring you joy. And unless, like, you're Kazuma, in which case, please find your chill, find your zen, and put away the damn magical demon-slaying sword, you crazy bastard. Good night.